Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're looking into the disappearance of Michelle Loran. She was 19 years old and it said she went missing from Kalama, Washington in October of 1990. And we're going to start out at a web sleuth page to see what they have to say. And let's see, they said she's 19 and she has brown hair and brown eyes, 110 to 115 pounds. Let's see, it says on 10/28, she was reported a missing person to the Kalama Police Department. On 4/16/1996, they found a human skull in unincorporated Kalama. The Cowlitz County Sheriff's Office was able to identify the skull as belonging to her through dental records. The lower jaw and the body are still missing, and the case remains a homicide investigation. This one says last seen 2 a.m., October 28, 1990, at Interstate I-5 underpass a few blocks from her home. Marty Ogden, who gave her a ride home after a get-together in South Kelso, was one of the several persons of interest but was not arrested. Loran's bones found April 16, 1996, in the woods east of I-5 near Kalama. And I don't know if that refers to that one part that they found or details from November 1st, 1990, article of the Daily News titled Second Local Woman Missing. Michelle F. Loran had a 5-month-old daughter at the time of her disappearance. Loran's mother was watching her daughter at the time. Loran disappeared just 12 days after another woman, Kellie Sims, age 27, went missing in Kelso, Washington, just 13 minutes away from Kalama. At the time of her disappearance, Police Chief Steve Hendricks said there were several similarities in the two cases. Loran was at a party with 3 friends in South Kelso. She left the party around 2 a.m. with one of the friends. This individual said he drove her back to Kalama and dropped her off near the freeway overpass on Elm Street. This is about 2 blocks from her apartment and less than 1 block from her mother's house. She never arrived at either location. Why would they drop them a few blocks away? Why wouldn't they just drop them at their house? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I wouldn't, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you get dropped off that far away? I mean, as stated by the original poster, her height is 5'8" and she was 112 pounds. Her left eye is blue and her right eye is brown. She was wearing acid wash jeans, a denim jacket, and a red sweatshirt with the words Mountain L on the front. More physical details from a news clipping submitted to the Daily News by her mother in a November 30th, 1990 edition. She had a molar neck scar on her forehead, has double curvature on her spine, left shoulder is higher than the right, and light complexion. Info below collected from May 13, 1982 article from the Daily News titled FBI to investigate possible Barton ties to other crimes. An individual named Keith A. Barton pled guilty to a second-degree murder and mutilation of a woman named Kellie South in October 1991. Oddly enough, Kellie Barton happens to be the older half-brother to Marty Ogden, who was the last person seen with Michelle Loran before she was reported missing. Details below from May 14, 1992 Daily News article titled Barton Can Denies Ties to Missing Woman. Marty Ogden, half-brother of convicted killer Keith Barton, expressed frustration with people trying to link him to the disappearance of Michelle Loran. Ogden said on May 14, 1992, that he believes Loran is still alive and in the area. He claims that he and others have seen her in different spots. Ogden claims that the night he dropped Loran off about 2 blocks from her house, she specifically asked him to leave her a few blocks away, which he thinks is because she didn't want her boyfriend to be jealous. Ogden said he and Loran had dated in the past but were good friends at the time. He said they hugged before she started walking home and he drove off. Ogden claims to have seen her near a church in Battleground, Washington, about a month after her disappearance. He says he hollered at her and she ran off and he knows for a fact it was her. He says he had been looking for Loran to clear his name. He said when or if he finds her, I'm going to drag her. Advertiser censored to the police station because it makes me mad. I'm getting tired of being accused. At the time of this article, Cowlitz County Sheriff's Office also considered Ogden to be one of 50 to 60 persons of interest in the April 1982 strangulation and stabbing of Chilla Silvernails, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, in Kalama, Washington, which Ogden says he had nothing to do with. He says police questioned him only because he had driven in that area before. Details below from an April 22nd, 1996 human remains. Details below from an April 22nd, 1996 article in the Daily News titled Bones Identified as Those of Michelle Loran. On Saturday, April 20th, 1996, human remains were found by a rock collector in woods near Kalama, Washington. On April 22nd, 1996, they were identified as those of Michelle Loran by using dental records. Chief Criminal Deputy Bill Mahoney said the remains were a result of foul play and that they believed she was a victim of homicide. Defrosting Cold Cases Facebook post 10/28/2017, which includes the link to a related online article. Michelle Frances Loran, age 19, a young mother, went missing in the early morning hours of October 28, 1990. Around 2 a.m., she was last seen at the I-5 underpass a few blocks from her home in Kelso, Kalama, Cowlitz County, Washington. Michelle's skull was found in April 1996 in the woods east of I-5, Kalama, Washington. She was identified by dental records. Michelle had a non-cemetery burial service. And then it says who to call if you have information. And is that all there is? I guess there is. I had thought there was more. Okay, let's go to Reddit now and see what they have on Reddit. This one says, posted 4 years ago, a murder in my hometown was gone unresolved for 28 years. A seemingly obvious suspect with motive is somehow cleared and lives unrecognized in town still. Police had suspicion of Green River killer. Please, Reddit, bring relief to his family. Michelle Frances Loran, age 19, a young mother, went missing in the early morning hours on October 20th, 1990. Around 2 a.m., she was last seen at I-5 underpass a few blocks from her home in Kelso, Kalama, Cowlitz County, Washington. Michelle was returning home from a party. A man called Marty Ogden, age 31, gave her a ride home. He is the last person to see Michelle alive. Ogden was one of several persons of interest but was not arrested. From a newspaper article about Michelle's case, I learned the following. Michelle is described as a physically challenged person. It is not specified what that means. Ogden said that he and Michelle had dated occasionally, but he thought of her like a sister. Michelle's mother, on the other hand, said that her daughter was afraid of Ogden and would never travel with him. The paper said that Michelle asked to be dropped off a few blocks from home to avoid that Howard Till, her boyfriend and father of her baby, would get jealous. Michelle Frances Loran grid at Michelle's skull was found in October 1996 in the woods east of I-5, Kalama, Washington. Another news article states her bones were found, but also that the rest of her body and lower mandible are still missing. What is clear is that we have incomplete remains. She was identified by dental records. Michelle had a non-cemetery burial service. Her available remains were not returned to her family. Police is quoted saying Loran died by means of foul play. Michelle's disappearance isn't the only unresolved case from that area in chronological order. Kellie Diane Sims, age 27, from Kelso, was last seen October 16, 1990. She was 5 foot 4 inches, 130 pounds, brown eyes, brown hair, parted in middle, shoulder length, and mother of 3. Michelle Frances Loran, age 19, from Kalama, was last seen October 28, 1990. She was 5 feet 8 inches, about 112 pounds, shoulder length or longer, brown hair, left blue eye, right eye is brown, and mother of 1. Phyllis Ellen Llewellyn, age 36, from Kelso, was last seen on December 27, 1996. She was 5 foot 6 inches, blue-green eyes, long strawberry blonde hair, and mother of 2. Vicky Garcia, age 26, from Kelso, was last seen October 3, 1999. She was 5 foot tall, 150 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes, and mother of 4. All women were of petite to medium height. 3 had shoulder length or longer hair. All 4 were mothers. Not surprisingly, police looked at the Green River Killer, a.k.a. Gary Ridgway. However, they didn't find a connection to him, nor do they have solid evidence that these disappearances are related. Local authorities worked the Green River Task Force years ago on the timeline, said Chief Criminal Deputy Dave Bodine of the Cowlitz County Sheriff's Office. Local missing women's cases are entered into the homicide identification and tracking systems through the Attorney General's office. He said, if you have any information about Michelle Frances Loran or the other three women, and there's the phone numbers and contact information. Who are you suggesting is the killer? This person asked. The man that drove her home or the boyfriend? I would imagine that it's within reason that she was dropped off and the baby daddy was the last to see her alive and just lied. It is also worth mentioning that the news articles from the time report three women of similar build and economical background, all mothers, disappeared from the same area within 6 months of each other. Of the women who are at least partially located, were they found in the same area? I noticed in 2 cases it says east of Kelso, which isn't very helpful. Do either Michelle's baby daddy or the ex who supposedly drove her home have any other history? Are either of them even vaguely connected to any of the other women? How to read the actual case file? I only ask because there is not enough information for me to make any headway on this. There are listings in the CCSO, Cowlitz County Sheriff's Office, missing and unsolved section. Here's a link. It says, it would seem within reason to suspect one person may have went on a spree in the 90s. Michelle Frances Loran, age 20 years of age, went missing in 1991 from Kelso, Kalama. Skull found 1996 off of China Garden Road in Kalama. The rest of her body and lower mandible are still missing. Kellie J. South, 29 years of age, murdered in 1991, partially recovery of body east of Kelso. Kellie Sims, 27 years of age, Kelso missing person case 1990. Vicky Lee Garcia, 26 years of age, missing from Kelso 1999, partially body recovery east of Kelso. And it gives the case information. Mass killings are divided into sprees and serial. This would fall under serial killings. Thanks for the links. I'll read up in my spare time and post my thoughts later. I suggest it is likely she never arrived at the destination, or did just long enough to be seen while being stalked by the actual killer. The man who dropped her off, she had specifically spoke about feeling uneasy being alone with the man who brought her home. I can send more links. I'll research more to find out how to read the file. That would be good, thanks. You can just post them here or send to my inbox. Thanks for the info. I appreciate you looking into this as well. There are seemingly very few law enforcement resources in my area, and it seems like there might be a chance that these are never resolved. It is interesting that Marty Ogden's brother Keith Barton confessed and was convicted of killing Kellie South in October 1991. Marty also said that he spotted Michelle at a truck stop after going missing, and she ran away when he called out to her. I'll have to research the library in order to find the articles on these since they were before internet news. Link to Seattle Times article. Also, why is your account only 3 hours old? My aunt so happens to be Kellie, was my mom's identical twin. I have all the original newspaper articles from 1991. Keith still has never confessed to where the rest of Auntie's body is, even though he confessed to the murder and has been convicted. I don't think her case has ever been looked into again. Have you tried looking through old newspapers at the public library? I'll post everything I find. I have not. How do I do this? I mean, it seems straightforward, but do any of you have tips increasing effectiveness? Knowing the estimated dates is best, and it will cost 5 cents per page to print. I did this about a year ago, researching missing merchant murder from the 80s, and was planning on looking up the other cases you mentioned. I have been intrigued with our local unsolved mysteries for years. So where Michelle was found was southeast of Kelso in Kalama, Washington, on the end, I presume, of China Garden Road. To the east of Kelso is a variety of backroads and wooded area, although not the same place. The different dumping grounds would have to be within 15 or so miles of one another, geographically very similar. How do you know this? I can't find this information anywhere. Kellie South, murdered by Keith Barton on October of 1990 because he believed her to be Satan. Michelle Loran, missing October 1990, last seen to be with Keith Barton's brother Marty Ogden. Marty claims to have again seen her later that month at a gas station. Kellie Sims, missing October 1991 from the same neighborhood that Michelle Loran was picked up by Marty Ogden in 1990. 1992, Keith Barton is in prison, murder stopped. 1999, Vicky Garcia goes missing. There's also Phyllis Llewellyn, who went missing December of 1996, never found, and more recently, Molly Waddington, who went missing in March 2012. Her remains were found on the bank of the Columbia by Kathleen in February 2013. There isn't any response from law enforcement. If you want law enforcement agencies to help, posting on Reddit is not going to do it. Most law enforcement will not have jurisdiction to investigate this, and it being a cold case, it will not be reopened unless there is a new lead. If you want to solve this, I suggest obtaining the police case files from the sheriff's office. I think you can make requests for copies of it. I might be wrong in this, though. Years ago, TDN ran an article that heavily implied that Marty Ogden and Keith Barton were suspects in the disappearances of the young women. I believe they are step or half brothers. Also, this was before Joe Condra became a suspect in Sheila Silvernail's murder. Marty Ogden was questioned about that at the time. Ogden's family are long-time Kalama residents. I've always thought that there was a connection to all the disappearance and the murder of Kellie South. Keith Barton was convicted of that, but he very well could have got away with it. Major evidence was found in his apartment dumpster that was said to be emptied that day it was discovered. If you read Ogden's statements about Michelle Loran case, you would probably think he definitely had something to do with it. He claimed she was alive and well a year later, that she didn't want to be seen. He said he saw her in a church parking lot, which wasn't true because they found her skull. I skimmed some of that. My aunt was Kellie South. She was my mom's identical twin sister. Her case has never been reopened or looked at, and there is so much more missing, and her body was never fully recovered. I wish my family could have closure from this tragedy. My mother passed away this last year, and I believe a big part of her was missing since my auntie's death, which was a big part of my mother's death. I would love to find some answers, and I know there is more people out there that know something that never came forward. I, too, am from this area and remember all these cases as they happened. I've done quite a bit of research on each of these deaths. It's a small, close-knit community where everyone knows or is related to one of them or their family members. When anything is mentioned about whatever happened to or that missing girl, questions about this, it is either with no new news or that this is not something to be discussed and told to not mention it and to let the topic rest. If this were your loved one, friend, acquaintance, and if so, will you? I am especially bothered by Missy Merchant's demise, and I do know the person tried that but never convicted of killing her. My son was related to the family, and until recently I had no idea. I do have partial clippings from Melissa Missy Merchant's murder trial, given to me by a person from there who is also researching. I'm more of a novice genealogist. If anyone has need for researching this and needs someone to look and might have suggest where to, I would gladly be willing to. Other than that, the families get the answers they seek, and their loved ones can find the comfort they seek. Sad for all those families until they do. 12-year-old Stephanie Crow was found murdered on the floor of her bedroom on the morning of January. Oh, this is a different one. So that's all of that. And must be an article. And of course, my computer would freeze up right now, right? It's just slow. Okay, so this one, defrosting cold cases. Michelle Frances Loran, July 31st, 1971 to October 1990. Michelle Frances Loran, age 19, a young mother, went missing in the early hours of October 28, 1990, around 2 a.m. She was last seen at the I-5 underpass a few blocks from her home in Kelso, Kalama, Calais, Washington. Michelle was returning home from a party. A man called Marty Ogden gave her a ride home. He is the last person to see Michelle alive. Ogden was one of several persons of interest but was not arrested. From the newspaper articles about Michelle's case, I learned the following. She is described, okay, I think we read that already. So I'm going to scroll and skim through this, so you can pause this and read it if you want to. Because I think we read it already on one of those other pages. And I don't want to read it again since we've already read it. Okay, and so it's very short. And here's a photo. It's not a very clear photo, but it is a photo. Some of them don't have any photos at all, so it's really good that you can see the shape of her face and everything, which is really good. And this one is from NamUs, and it says she was 19 years old, 5'8", 110 to 115 pounds. Date of last contact, name is case, created dates, and some other information. And if you know what happened to her, it's been years. There's no reason to keep it a secret. I feel that people want to change the subject. Like if you're talking to somebody and they're not being honest, they'll want to change the subject. Or if they're guilty, they'll want to change the subject. Or if they know something and they don't want to tell somebody, they want to change the subject. They don't want to talk about it. So if you have information, maybe you gave it to authorities years ago, but since then there's new detectives. They may not have the notes. You feel free to contact them, email them, CC a couple people. It's not like you're going to court. Even if it's hearsay and somebody was drinking and talking and you heard it, that doesn't mean you're going to court about it. So it doesn't matter if it's hearsay. You give the information to the authorities. Maybe it will help them solve the case somehow. You just never know. Maybe you feel like it's irrelevant and it won't help them, but maybe it will. You don't know. So give them the information. Take the weight off of your shoulders. And then you don't have to stress about it anymore. If you put that weight on their shoulders, it's gone from you. Anyway, don't forget to pray for her loved ones and her family. And thank you so much for tuning in. And if I read some of that too fast for you because I was like talking too fast, feel free to go to wherever I was reading it and pause it and mute the volume and read it yourself. Sorry that I was trying to whiz through this. Anyway, the phone's going to ring any minute now, so please feel free to leave comments and have a great day. Bye-bye.